Hey, what's going on? My name is Austin. This is Gone in 60. As you can see behind me, I have owned all three of these cars within the last year. And the question that I probably get asked most on the channel is, Austin, which one do you like better? How does this one compare to that? How does this one compare to that? So we're going to be comparing my 2019 Dodge Challenger Scat Pack to my 2020 Ford Mustang Bullitt to my 2021 Camaro 2SS 1LE. I have several different categories we're going to jump into, and I'm just going to share the differences between each platform. And obviously, guys, this is my opinion, so your opinions might vary differently. The things that matter to me might be very different to you. So with that, let's jump into it, and I'll do my best to give you guys an honest and accurate assessment as to how these cars stack up against each other. So the first category up on the list is daily driver. Which one of these cars is the best daily driver? And guys, I have daily driven every single one of these cars. In the snow, I have driven them in all conditions. So I know for you guys, you might not be daily driving these cars. So the question I get asked a lot is, Austin, if I buy X, Y, or Z, Mustang, Challenger, Camaro, which one makes the better daily driver? So I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts and my opinions. Now, in terms of space, in terms of comfort, in terms of storage, in terms of cup holders, in terms of just usable space, backseat, adults can fit in it, the Challenger wins hands down. However, everybody's daily driving characteristics are very different. What might be important to one person might be vastly different to another person in terms of daily driver. The things I didn't like about the Challenger as a daily driver, it was a manual transmission car, and for reference, all these are manual transmissions. The Challenger was the most difficult to drive around town because the clutch is heavy, the throws are a lot longer. It drives like an old muscle car, which is very true to Dodge and their characteristics. But for me, driving that around town with the size, it was a little longer, it was a little harder to park. It just didn't maneuver kind of how I wanted to. Now, if I had an automatic Dodge Challenger Scat Pack, I would give the category to the Scat Pack. The Camaro, guys, as a daily driver, it's not as good. I'm not going to share too much on it, but given the limited usability of the trunk, of the back seat, it is very nimble to drive around town. Visibility for me hasn't been a problem, especially with the 2SS model. The 1LE, I will say, doesn't make for as good as a daily driver as like a 2SS does. It just rides a little bit stiffer. The tires that come with it, even if there's a little water on the road, the car just wants to slide around. If I had to pick my favorite daily driver out of that category, actually it'd be the Mustang. And the reason being is the Mustang still has plenty of trunk space. It still has enough space in there. It's not like the Challenger. But what I liked about it is it was just easy to drive around town. It was just very doable with less torque down low. Sometimes, as you take off from a stoplight, it didn't jerk forward. It just really was a great all-around daily driver. And for me, just the clutch feel, just the shifting, it was just so smooth, so easy, the size of it. So, obviously the Challenger, if you're into space, if you're into storage, that Challenger hands down wins. But due to the manual transmission components, the size of the car, for me, I personally like the Mustang better as a daily driver just all around, because even though it was a little bit smaller than the Challenger, it still gave me everything that I needed. And it also introduced me to a little bit smaller platform compared to the Challenger, and I liked how nimble that car was. And so for me, the Mustang is the better daily driver. And don't get me wrong, the Camaro can still work perfect as a daily driver. I really don't have a lot of complaints. So depending on what's important to you as a daily driver, and it goes with every one of these categories, your answer is gonna differ. And what you care about or like more will reveal itself to you by driving each one of these cars. So those are my thoughts on best daily driver. Now, as we move on to fun factor, because let's be honest, do we need all of these cars? No, we don't, but we want them. And so when it comes to fun factor, this one's a tough one. This one is kind of hard to be able to share my thoughts on it. Now, don't get me wrong, the Mustang is plenty fun. It's a great cruiser. It is a lot of fun. That car is really fun at high speeds. That car is just crazy fast on the top end. So the Mustang's fun. You can't go wrong with any of these because you hear a V8, if you get them in a manual transmission, they're fun. You can squill the tires, you can have a lot of fun in them. But the two cars that I want to focus on are the Challenger and the Camaro, because I really think that's who it comes down to. When it comes to the Challenger, if you just want just stupid, all out fun, doing donuts, smoke the tires, just light them up, torque that throws you crazy back in your seat. If you just want to go wild, the Challenger, hands down, is the most fun. When it comes to the Camaro, it's fun in a different way. If you want to go carve up a back road, if you want to go carve up a canyon, it is just amazing for that. Now, the Camaro, what's interesting with it is, what I didn't like with the Mustang is down low, the torque was just not enough, didn't throw you back in your seat. And honestly, a lot of cars kept up with the Mustang up until about 70 miles an hour. But with the Camaro, I feel it's a great blend between the Challenger and the Mustang, because it just kind of sits in between at the 455 torque, 455 horsepower. Because with the Challenger, it's really hard to use all that horsepower. It just wants to burn the tires. So depending on what's fun for you guys, if it's just going crazy, doing donuts, the Challenger got more attention than any car that I've driven. All of them have gotten their own attention in their own ways. But if you're into old school muscle, if you're into kind of people giving you a thumbs up at a stoplight, doing donuts, just burning the tires, if you want to live back in the 70s and how those cars operated, the Challenger is definitely the most fun. However, if you want the best car to kind of carve up the canyon, that's a blend between all of them, the Camaro is a blast to drive too. And we'll get into some other things that I think make it fun. So in this category, I'm not picking a winner because it just depends on what's important to you guys. For me, I had equal amount of fun in both the Challenger and the Camaro. And the Mustang was still fun too in its own way. But for me, the Challenger and Camaro were just on a different level. Okay, we're gonna talk on one category that probably shouldn't be on here because it's miles per gallon. And if you're buying these cars, don't worry about the miles per gallon. I'll just share with you which car I got the most miles per gallon with, and we'll keep this section the shortest. The Mustang, hands down, gave me better gas mileage. I could get almost 28 on the freeway with it. The Challenger didn't do too bad. You know, I would probably get around 24 on it. On the highway, maybe 25. The Camaro, I've gotten about 24, 25. A lot of people said it can get higher than that. It's still really new, so it's getting broken. So if miles per gallon matters to you and you're looking for a V8, the Mustang with the 5.0 liter Coyote is gonna give you the best fuel economy. But let's be real, guys, we're not buying these cars for the fuel economy. Okay, this is one that I get, and honestly, I don't have data to back it up. All I have is my butt dyno. So which car is faster? And the answer depends. If you want the car that is going to get to the top speed the fastest, or if you want a car that is gonna pull really high at fast speeds, that's the Mustang. I'm not gonna share with you what we've taken that car to, but that car, when you get above 70, 80 miles an hour, it wakes up and those coyotes wanna run. So if you're looking for like top speed demon, it's the Mustang. You know, with the limiters on them, you're not gonna get past 165, 167, somewhere around there. I know the Bullet's different from the other Mustangs. So in a drag race, would the Mustang win in a quarter mile? No, it wouldn't. I actually believe these two cars, the Challenger and the Camaro, would beat the Mustang in a quarter mile drag race. Now, after the quarter mile, the Mustang is gonna pull those two cars. I just firmly believe it. Now, at the end of the quarter mile, the Mustang would be kind of kicking into that 80, 90 mile, 100 mile an hour zone, and it starts to bury the speedometer. So the Challenger, when you get up to, let's say, quarter mile speeds, it really starts to die off. The Camaro, I haven't really fully tested it like too much. So when it comes to, let's say, a quarter mile drag race between the Challenger and the Scat Pack, it would be close. It would be interesting because the Camaro has torque. It has a lot more than the Mustang. I think I think the Camaro would beat the Scat Pack in a quarter mile drag race, but I don't think it would be by much. I think the Camaro, from what I have felt, is faster in a quarter mile than the Challenger and the Mustang. Now, there's probably data, there's probably articles. I don't have concrete evidence for you guys, so take that with a grain of salt. But what I will say is, you know, the Challenger, if it can hook the amount of torque that that car has, it puts it down. These cars are all really close, guys. You know, the Challenger's problem is it's got too much power and it can't hook. It's heavier. It's about 400 or 500 pounds heavier. So to me, the Camaro all around just kind of feels more balanced, faster. But I will say the Mustang will pull on the Camaro when it gets to the top end. It just will. The Mustang, if you can find a way to add more torque, add more horsepower to a Mustang down low, it'll beat all of these cars, because once that car, like I said, gets above 70, 80 miles an hour, it is going to pull both of these cars pretty hard. So if the Challenger can hook, which has always been the thing, right? It's another 400 or 500 pounds heavier than both of these cars. But for me, what I feel in a quarter mile, it would be the Camaro first, Challenger second, Mustang third. But it comes with an asterisk. I think after that quarter mile, the Mustang will shine. The Camaro will start to pull a little bit more on the Scat Pack, and the Scat Pack will fall further behind. But guys, we're talking probably 1 to 2 car lengths. Like, this isn't like, hey, super slow, super fast. Guys, these are all very comparable. They all compete against each other. They all look at the data. Those are just my butt dynos. That's just what I have. I'm sorry I don't have factual evidence to give you guys, but on my perspective, that is just what I'm going with. All right, so let's talk about comfort, because all of these cars are comfortable. They're not bad. They really aren't. You're not gonna get in them and go, oh, this is horrible, this is harsh. But you're probably gonna buy these cars to take on road trips, and if you're gonna daily drive these cars, or if you're gonna drive them in the summertime, you wanna be able to enjoy them, and comfort is part of the equation. Because if you've ever ridden in, you know, a BMW or certain cars that, like an M series that has a much stiffer suspension and you're just bouncing over every little bump, or if you're like me and your significant other sitting in there, while we might like a stiffer suspension, they go, oh, this is horrible, this ride's really harsh. So when it comes to all-around comfort, road trip, the Challenger is the winner. It just is. The seats, the space, the comfort, you can fit people in the back seat, you can just cruise down the road. Second place I would give to the Mustang. That car does great. It handles great. It's a little bit more nimble than the Challenger, gets better gas mileage. It still has enough space. The back seats really aren't that usable for adults, but it is comfortable. The seats are comfortable. The Camaro takes last for me. I recently took it on a 700-mile road trip. The seats, I have the Recaro seats. I think if I had the 2SS seats, I would feel much different about it. But for me, the Recaro seats, they hug me a little bit too tight at the bottom end. And the seats, I feel a little bit short. I wish they were a little bit longer at the bottom. Don't get me wrong, it was still very comfortable to drive. However, if I had to take a 1,000, 2,000 mile road trip, I would be picking the Challenger all day long, then the Mustang, then the Camaro. When it comes to handling, they all handle just fine, and you're gonna be able to do a lot of things in these cars. I know a lot of people that take all these cars up to canyons, sharp corners, drive them hard. We're gonna roll out the Challenger in this category for handling. It handles just fine. For the amount of weight, the amount of horsepower, it's balanced, it's not bad. But when you're comparing it to the Mustang and the Camaro, if you're taking on a canyon run, hands down, those two cars just handle better. But it doesn't mean the Challenger is bad by any stretch of the imagination. The Mustang, you know, had MagneRide. It has a lot of stuff that the performance packages have. But when it comes to all-around handling, the Mustang and the Camaro are awesome. Like, they really are. Mustangs have fixed a lot of things in their chassis. But when you ride in GM's chassis going around corners, like, I never understood what they meant by how good their chassis is and how well it handles. But the Camaro hands down handles better than the Mustang. And I just love driving that car. It's amazing how fast you can take some corners in the Camaro. And the Mustang would keep up just fine. But when it comes to the Camaro, it just feels so planted. It doesn't feel like it can get away from you. And especially, you know, this is the 1LE package. It has a lot of goodies in it for track use. But all around, even just the stock Camaros, I've driven them. They are the best handling car out of all three. So if you care about handling, the Camaro is the way to go. The Mustang is a great option. And the Challenger is not bad. If you just like cruising through canyons, the Challenger will do just fine. But if you're like a hardcore corner carving enthusiast, get a Camaro or get a Mustang. All right, now let's talk about quality. The Mustang, you're out the door. Mustang, I liked my Mustang, but out of quality compared to the Challenger and the Camaro, the Mustang was the worst. I had just a lot of quality issues with that car, from dents to paint chipping super easy to my interior trim rattling, squeaking, vibrating. It was the noisiest car inside the cabin to drive because of all the squeaks and stuff. I had a dash trim piece that I had to hammer in. The Mustang and Ford, especially with the MT82 transmission, the Mustang loses easily. And when it comes to the Challenger and the Camaro, I feel they're equal. With the Challenger, I had to put a battery in it, but that's not that big a deal. So I can't really give a winner over the Challenger and the Camaro. Guys, American cars have stepped up their games in terms of quality. They're all awesome, but they're not perfect. They're not, German engineering perfect. But what I will say is these cars are dependable. I think all of their paint is kind of similar, but I will say, because I haven't had issues with the Challenger or the Camaro, I think they're on equal footings for me. Now, I know for you guys, you maybe owned a Lemon, you maybe bought this, you maybe bought that, and you swear that those guys are awful. Maybe I just got a bad batch on the Bullet. Don't get me wrong, mechanically, it ran fine. Other transmission just grinding, but that's normal for those. But the quality of the Mustang, I just felt for that price tag of a car and how new it was just, just creaks, rattles. It drove me nuts driving it. But the Camaro, so far I haven't had any issues with, and the Challenger, I really didn't have any complaints when it came to quality. So for this category, I wanted to kind of create a classification as to who buys each one of these cars. When it comes to the Challenger, people that buy the Challenger want that retro style feeling. There's a reason Dodge hasn't changed its formula or recipe, because the recipe works. If you like old muscle cars, if you like a true driving muscle car, the Challenger hands down carries the exact same roots as what it was in the 70s, in my opinion. So if you're old school Mopar loyalists, you guys are awesome. You guys stick to what you know, what you love. But if you want a car that resembles a car from back when you're in high school or in the 70s, the kind of sound, that kind of feel, that kind of drive, Dodge nailed it. But you have a lot of modern technologies in that car, which blends the best of both worlds. Who buys a Mustang? They kind of fall into a similar camp of Challengers. Mustang really kind of started it all. It's people that have owned so many Mustangs. They're loyal to the Mustang brand, the enthusiasts. They like all the different models, all the different chassis. And the Mustangs are very tunable. So if you want to make the most horsepower out of all of these cars, the Mustang platform probably is the best. Camaro closely behind. So you're either nostalgic to the brand of what it was. Mustang has done a good job carrying that same feeling that the Challenger did from the old days to the new days. But for me, when it comes to the Mustang, you can tune it. If you want to make high-end horsepower, that Coyote can handle a lot. And so it kind of blends the old and the new, and the Challenger's attracted a new audience as well. So that, in my opinion, are kind of those two platforms. When it comes to the Camaro, Camaros aren't as popular. We all know that. You can look at any sales figure chart. The Camaro, obviously you have the brand loyalists as well who would buy those. If you're someone who likes to track a car, if you're someone who wants like a sports car and you don't care about cabin feel, and what I mean by that is when you're buying a sports car, you realize it's not going to be the most roomy, maybe the most comfortable. The Camaro, hands down, is an amazing track car for the money. Now, have I driven mine around the track? No. But I have driven it hard enough and driven it in certain circumstances to know how that car would perform and react. So for the Camaro, it's someone who wants something a little bit different. It's someone who doesn't want to follow the popular crowd. Do me a favor, look to see today just driving around how many Mustangs or Challengers you see on the road and how many Camaros. So I think the Camaro is kind of a little bit of the black sheep. I kind of like that. I kind of like the underdog a little bit. But if you're really into tracking a car, if you're really into carving up canyons, the Camaro is amazing for that. And a Camaro and a Mustang can do everything very well. But in my opinion, those are kind of who might want to buy those three platforms. Now, I get this question asked a lot, and we're going to end on this. Is Austin, which one is your favorite? And it's kind of like picking your favorite kid. But I will do my best to pick it for you guys. In third is the Mustang. I've talked at length about the Mustang, and it's just, I liked it. I liked the sound of the exhaust with the Bullet and how it was tuned, but it was a little underwhelming in terms of torque. It was a little underwhelming in terms of quality. The area that I have a hard time in picking is between the Challenger and the Camaro. The Challenger, I really got a base Challenger. There's a note kind of in the back of my head that, Austin, what if you would have bought maybe a Challenger with a little bit more features? For me, I really like the shaker hood. That has just always been something that I think is awesome. And if I had a Challenger Scat Pack with a shaker hood, boy, it would probably be first. Right now, with the Camaro, I've had it for a few months. Still probably in the honeymoon phase. So far, I feel like the Mustang introduced me to a smaller, more nimble car. The Camaro is such a great marriage of what I love in the Mustang and what I love in the Challenger. And so for me, right now, I would probably pick the Camaro as my favorite, but man, it is close with the Challenger. If I had more features in a Challenger, if I had the shaker option, it might be number one. So guys, I try to be fair. I try to be honest. These are my thoughts, my assessments. You guys might have very different opinions on this topic, but I try to be just truthful as I can to you guys, and those are my thoughts. So if you guys are buying one of these three cars, you can't go wrong. They are amazing. You're gonna love them. And guys, we're running out of days before we can get these cars. So if you guys like fast cars, if you like a variety of cars, please watch the channel, because honestly, I've owned all three of these in the last year. I am buying cars, I'm selling cars. I love all cars. So guys, thanks for watching my videos. I hope this helps some of you. I hope this clears up a lot of questions that I get answered. Thank you guys for watching the channel. We'll catch you on the next video.